Good morning, everyone. We are coming to you live via Facebook streaming, YouTube streaming, and also via Skype. Each one of you is welcome to this live streaming from our studios in Trinidad. Sutras of Vigyan Bhairav Tantra. Nothing is unchanging that you can know. Nothing is unchanging that you can know. It is important, let me again and again, I spoke on the word Vigyan Bhairav Tantra. It comes from three separate words. Vigyan means science, a systematic way of understanding a phenomena. Bhairav means that which is beyond duality. Body is dualistic. There are many five sense organs. There is masculine and feminine energy. So going beyond this is Bhairav. Tantra means the way, the discipline to understand something which is beyond duality in a scientific manner. In a scientific manner. Nothing is unchanging that you can know. The sutra says, here is the sphere of change, change, change. Through change, consume change. The sutras are like chemical equations that carries within its womb the secret process. If you take a mathematical formula or a chemical equation, it talks in symbols. H2, 2H plus O2, reversible action equal to H2O. If you are not familiar with what does this letter H represents, what does O represents, what does H2O represents, you will not understand this. Why it is said 2H and O2, why not H2? And why it is said H2O? These are all symbols. Chemistry talks in symbols. For this you have to know the periodic table, the valency, the atomic weight, atomic number, and all these things. Only then you will be able to understand this particular formula. We thought for years that religion is nothing else but philosophical interpretation. It is not so. The first thing to understand is that everything that you know about is change. Everything that you know about is change, except you. What is you? Your outer appearance or innerness, the knower. Except you, which is knower. Everything is change, undergoing constant change. Have you seen anything which is not change? The whole world is a phenomenon of change. Even the Himalayan mountains are changing. It is said, the scientists who work on it, that they are growing, mountain is growing, These Himalayas are the youngest mountains in the world, is still a child, really, and is still growing. They have not yet become mature. They have not yet reached to the point from where the process of downward journey or decline is to begin. They are still rising. If you compare them, the Himalayan mountain with another mountain which is called Vindhyachal, they are just children. Vindhyachal is one of the oldest and some say oldest mountain in the world. Vindhyachal mountain. It is so old, it's decomposing, decreasing, coming down has begun. For centuries it is coming down, just dying in its old age. Just as a human being from birth continues the process of growth, when the growth reaches its pinnacle, then the downward journey begins. This is the process. You are climbing up the mountain, climbing up the elevation, the vehicle is going up the hill. When it reaches the top, its descent begins. So this is the normal process. It is so old, it is decreasing, coming down. For centuries, it is coming down, just dying in its old age. So even a Himalayas which looks so stable, unchanging, unmoving, is undergoing the process of change. It is just a river of stones. Stones make no difference. They are also river-like, floating. Stones also float. Comparatively, everything is undergoing change. Something looks more changing, other things looks less changing. It is only relative. Matter is also changing, but at a slow pace. The wall in front of you is undergoing change, but its change is so small that it cannot be captured by the human eye. This is the reason after some time a particular building decomposes, deteriorates, because the change is constantly happening. The movement, if it is like a fan, the blades are moving. When the blades are stationary, when the fan is not moving, it is stationary, you can see the blades. As its speed increases, you will not be able to see the blades. And when fan is moving at a high speed, you will not see the blade. But it is moving. Same way, the wall in front of you is moving at such a pace that you cannot see. You can see the change happening in your body because it is a relatively very small. So you can see it. But the wall you cannot see. Nothing is unchanging that you can know. Remember this point. Nothing that you can know, nothing that you can know is unchanging. Nothing is unchanging except the knower. Knower is, but that is always behind. It knows. It is really never known. There is something that never changes, is never born, never dies in you. Do you know anything about it? You have conceptualized it. You have philosophized it. You have heard about it. You believe in that, but you do not know. You know the function of your eyes, the ears, the nostrils, the body, the hands, the feet, but you do not know that which is not changing. It always knows. It is really, but there is that which is always behind, unchanging. It always knows. But it is never known. It knows but remains unknown. It can never become the object because there is something, that object that you want to know about, and there is a faculty that knows. So you know everything about the object. You know about your eyes, about your nostril, about your ears, but you do not know that which knows everything. Subject. It can never become the object. It always remains the subject. Whatsoever you do or know, it is always behind. You cannot know it. When I say this, there is no need to get disturbed. When I say that you cannot know it, I mean you cannot know it as an object. When I say that you cannot know it, I mean you cannot know it as an object. But how can I look at myself in the same way? The object is outside you. There is a distance between you and the object, so you can know it. You can know about it. But that which is closest to you, how can you know about it? How can you know it? How can I know myself in the same way as I know anything as an object? It is impossible, because to be in a relationship of knowledge, two things are needed: the knower and the known. That which knows and that which is to be known, the object and subject. And there has to be a relationship between the two, the object and the subject. So when I look at you, you are the known and I am the knower. When you look at the smartphone, you are the knower and the smartphone is the known. And the knowledge can exist as a bridge between the two. One knowledge that comes in through the university education, there are two words: Siksha and Gyan. Siksha, education, and knowledge is Gyan. One comes through the university education in a systematic manner, The other comes is totally a different kind of journey. It comes from deep within you. So the self-knowledge is a negative process. You cannot know yourself directly. You can simply go on eliminating the objects of knowledge. Objects of knowledge, how you can do it. When Raman says, know thyself, how can you know? There are so many layers on you. If I ask you, who are you? The first thing you say, I am X, Mr. X. I am a Hindu. I am an American. I am a male. I am this. I am that. All these things are on the surface, you can know about it. This is a negative process. You cannot know yourself directly. So what you have to do, these are the identities. My name. My name is such and such. I am this, I am a doctor, I am an engineer, I am this, I am that. You know all these things, but you do not know what you really are. You are something beyond all these things. These are the outer coverings. When you dress yourself, you wear the undergarments, you wear a shirt, you wear a necktie, you wear a three-piece jacket, you wear the overcoat, and so many other things. Is the overcoat you? Is the overcoat defines you? You think, yes, it does. The clothes defines you. No. They are there for convenience, not for any other purpose. Not for any other purpose. You can simply go on eliminating the objects of knowledge that you want to know about. You go on eliminating the objects of knowledge when there is no object of knowledge to be known. You come when you cannot know anything else, there is nothing else to know. When there is nothing but the vacuum, the emptiness. And this is what meditation or marakva is. Marakva is not that you sit down and you do a zikr, so that creates a boredom. A mother puts the child into meditation. Isn't it so? The child is not falling asleep. Mother sings a lullaby, something at the same note, at one wavelength, a particular sound, la 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 la, and with that a boredom is created. Child goes into a state of meditation, falls asleep. And you call this as meditation. Certainly it relaxes you. Meditation is not mere relaxation or concentration. A moment comes when consciousness is, but there is nothing to be conscious of. Pure consciousness is there, and that state of when there is pure consciousness and nothing else, that state is meditation. But there is nothing to be conscious of. Knowing is, then knowing comes in. That is knowledge. But there is nothing to know. The single pure energy of knowing remains and nothing is left to be known. Nothing else is left to be known. There is no object. All the objects have been eliminated. All that identifies you, defines you, have been deleted. In that state, when there is nothing to be known, it is said that you know yourself. It is said, know thyself, but how can you know thyself? By eliminating all that you consider can define you. Your name, your shajara, the parentage, the DNA, the lineage, that I come from this tradition, I come from this, come from that. I studied at Harvard, I studied at Oxford, I studied this discipline with honors. I had seen someone had his letterhead on that, it was written, the qualifications, the degree, and within bracket honors, and the name of the university. Why can't you just say, I am this? I am known by this name. But in that state, when there is nothing to be known, it is said you know yourself in a certain sense. But that knowledge is totally different from any other knowledge that you gain through the university education. You spend 20 to 25 years of a precious life in the university campus learning this and that. When you come out at the time of graduation, you are given honors, degrees, and this and that. And it is said you are ready to plunder this outer world. But do you have the answers to the simple questions that life asks you on a day-to-day basis? You may have been a very learned person, educated, but this does not mean you know what life is, how to live life. But that knowledge is totally different from all other knowledge. It is misleading to use the same word for the both. There have been mystics who have said that self-knowledge is contradictory. Self-knowledge is contradictory, that very term is contradictory. Knowledge is always of the other. Knowledge is always about the other, about the object. Self-knowledge is not possible. But when the other is not, something happens. You may call it self-knowledge, but the word is misleading. Knowledge is always of the other. So when you have eliminated all the objects from the sphere of knowing, then remains, that is what the word is used, self-knowledge, but that is also misleading. If you understand this difference, you can use the word, because unless you coin a new word, sometimes in the field of research, in the field of physics or any other field, the scientists coin a new word to explain certain things. Higgs and Higgs boson particle is a name given to something, a particle. The term that they use to define that, and that is known as God particle. So, whatsoever you know is change. Everything, everywhere even these walls are constantly changing. You are surrounded by this changing phenomena. Your spouse is changing. You are changing. When you stand up in front of the mirror, you can see constantly a change is taking place. Now, physics supports this. Even the wall, which looks so stationary, non-changing, is changing every moment. A great flux is on. Every atom is moving, every electron is moving, everything is moving fast, and the movement is so fast that you cannot detect it, you cannot capture it within the finite cognition. That is why the wall looks so permanent. In the morning it was like this, in the afternoon it is like this, and in the evening too it looks the same. Yesterday it was this, tomorrow it will be like this. You look at it as if it is same, but it is not. Your eyes are incapable of detecting such a great movement that is happening at a tremendous pace. The fan is there. If the fan is moving at a very high speed, you will not be able to see the space. It will look like just one circle. That is what the blades are. You are not seeing the blades. Between the blades there is a gap. When it is moving at a high speed, you cannot see the gap between the blades. All you are seeing is simply a circle. A space cannot be seen because the movement is so fast. And if the movement is so fast, just as fast as electrons are moving, you will not see that the fan is moving at all. You will not be able to detect the movement. The fan will look stationary, like moving like a circle. You will even be able to touch it. It will be stationary. And your hand will not even be able to enter the gaps that exist, because yes, there are gaps, but it is moving at such a speed that you cannot see the gap, and you cannot put the finger into the gaps because your hand cannot move so fast to go into the gaps. Before you move, another blade will come. Before you move, still another blade will come, and you will always touch the blade, and the movement will be so fast that the fan will look like it is not moving, it is stationary. So things that are non-moving are very fast moving, moving at a tremendous speed that your cognition cannot capture. That is why there is appearance that they are stationary. The sutra says that everything is a change. Here is the sphere of change. On this sutra is based Buddha's entire philosophy. Buddha's philosophy stands. Buddha says that everything is a flux, is constantly changing, non-permanent, and that one should know this. Buddha's emphasis is so much on this point. His whole standpoint is based on it. He says, change, change, change. Remember this continuously. Why? If you can remember change, detachment is possible. How? Buddha's focus was on this phenomenon of change. Remember this continuously. If you can remember change, that something is changing, then how can you remain attached to something? I am constantly changing. So you are attached to the change that is taking place. Detachment will happen. How can you be attached when everything is undergoing the change? You look at a face, it is beautiful. When you look at the face that is very beautiful, there is a feeling that it is going to remain forever. We think about our spouse in that way. Understand it deeply. Never expect that this is going to remain. But if you know that this is changing fast, that this is beautiful this moment, it may be ugly the next moment. This may be ugly the next moment. How can you feel or remain attached in any way? Look at a body. It is alive. The next moment it will be dead. One time is a flux, constantly moving. One moment it is there. Next moment it has changed. And you cannot move with the pace of time. You cannot, we say that move with the pace of time, but you cannot. It remains, time is momentary. It appears the clock stucks the time for a moment and then it moves to the next moment. The movement is so fast, the gap is so infinitesimal that you cannot capture it. Buddha left the palace, his family, his beautiful wife, Yashodhara, and the child Rahul, and when someone asked him why, he said, where there is nothing permanent, what is the use? Buddha spent 12 years in austerity. He attained to awakening. When he reached, after awakening, enlightenment, he reached the palace. Yashodhara the clock has stuck for him. She only remembered when Buddha had left in the middle of the night, the sleeping Yashodhara and Rahul by her side. She has not moved. She was stuck in that moment. Does it not happen in our day-to-day life like this? In the morning there was an argument between you and your spouse. Whole day you are thinking about it. And in the evening when you come, the same gesture remains. Same argument continues. The time has changed. Much water has flown under the bridge, but you are stuck. Buddha left the palace. The wife's back was towards the door. She was holding the child in his arms. In sleep, Buddha wanted to say goodbye, but then he resisted. He said, "What is the use of it?" A moment came in the mind when a thought flashed that the child is just 1 day old, a few hours old, and I must have a look at the child. But then he said, "What is the use? What is the use? Everything is changing. This day the child is born, the next day the child will die, and 1 day before he was not here, and now it is here, and 1 day again he will not be there. So what is the use? Everything is constantly changing, and we are lost in this changing phenomena all around." He left, turned back, and left. When someone asks, "Why have you left that?" he said, "I am in search of that which never changes. Because if I stick to that which changes, there is going to be frustration. If I cling to that which is changing, I am stupid." Buddha said, "Because it will change, it will not remain the same, then I will be frustrated. So I am in search of that which never changes, which is never born, never dies." We talk about spirituality. We are seeking this in the temples, churches, and mosques. We are seeking in meditation, in a state of relaxation, but not that which is. Do we attain to that? If there is anything which never changes, only then does life is worth and meaningful, is worth living. Otherwise, everything is futile. He based his entire teaching on change. Life is constantly changing. It goes on changing, and we revolve around this change. The sutra is beautiful. It says, through change, consume change. Through change, consume change. Buddha would never say the second part. The second part is basically tantric. Buddha will say that everything is change, feel it, and then when you have felt this change, you will not cling to it. And when you do not cling to it, by and by leaving everything that change, you will fall into yourself, to the center where there is no change, which is never born, never dies, and go on eliminating all that is constantly changing. All that is constantly changing, your name, your body, your degrees, these are part of the change. Before you came out of the university, you did not have the degrees conferred upon you. So you consider this as your identity. Before you attain cognition, You had no identity that you are a Hindu, Muslim, or Christian. No child knows this. It is imposed on the child by the outer dimension, by the priests and family and all that. This, when you do not cling to it, by and by leaving everything that changes, you will fall into yourself, to the center where there is no change. Just go on eliminating the changing phenomena. Go on eliminating change, and you will come to the unmoving, to the center which never changes. It remains invisible. When you draw a circumference, a circle, after the circumference is drawn, the center becomes invisible unless you put a mark on it. The center of the wheel, that is why Buddha has chosen the wheel as the symbol of religion. Buddha used wheel as symbol of religion because the wheel moves, but the center on which the movement is taking place remains unmoving. So this world, this sansar, moves like a wheel. The wheel of time, too swiftly it moves, goes on mopping as it rolls. But it moves on an axle which never changes, which remains stationary. And your innermost essence remains the center on which the wheel moves. All change takes place on the axle. That is you, that never changes. Buddha will say, life is change. He will agree with the first part. The second part is typically tantric. Through change, consume change. Tantra says, do not leave that which is changing. Move into it. Do not cling, but move into it. Why be afraid? Move into it, live it out, allow it to happen, and you will move, and you move into it. Consume it through itself. Do not be afraid. Do not escape. Where would you escape to? How can you escape? Everything that is surrounding you is change. Living through the change, you can transcend beyond the change. Maintaining the family relationship, you can come out of that. If you do not consume the food, when you consume the food for a period of time, you come out of that. Tantra says everywhere is change. Whatsoever you see around you is changing. How can you escape it? Where would you go? Buddha will use the first. Through change, consume change. He is right. Tantra is right also. Where would you escape when you are surrounded by the changing phenomena? You are living in a world which is constantly moving at a pace. Where would you go? The changes all around. No escape is possible because wherever you want to escape, where else will you go? You go to the mountain, you go to somewhere else. When you are going for a holiday to relax and so, are you really relaxed? You are moving from a changing phenomena into another changing phenomena. For some time you may enjoy it, you may feel relaxed, But then this same story continues. Then what to do? The only thing is, do not cling. Whatsoever you are doing, continuously do it, but do not cling it. Live the change, be the change. Do not create any struggle with it. Move with it. The river is flowing. Flow with it. Life is a river that is continuously flowing. Flow with it. Do not even swim. Flow with it. Do not swim. Allow the river to take you wherever it wants to take you. This is what floating is. Do not fight with it. Flow in the direction of the current. Do not waste your energy by fighting with it. The more if you are going upstream against the current, you will be wasting your energy and you will reach nowhere. Just relax, be in let go, and move with the river that is constantly moving. What will happen then? What will happen? If you move with the river without any conflict, without any direction of your own, without any conditioning of your own, if the river's direction is your direction, suddenly you will become aware that you are not the river. You will become aware that you are not the river. Feel it. Someday try it in a river. Go there, relax, and allow the river to take you wherever it wants to take you. Do not fight. Become the river. Suddenly you will feel that the river is all around. But you are not the river. You are in the river, but you are not the river. Life is a river. You are in the river. You are flowing with the river, and then you will realize that these things do not affect you. You are not. You are into the river. River is taking you wherever it wants to take you along its flow, but you are not river. You are separate, but you are not the river. In fighting, you forget this. This is why Tantra says, through change, consume change. Do not fight. There is no need, because in you the change cannot enter. In you the change cannot enter. So don't be afraid. Change is happening on the circumference. Circumference keeps on changing as the distance between the center changes to the circumference. The radius changes. Live in the world. Be in the world, but do not let the world be in you. Do not be afraid, because in you the world cannot enter. Live it. Don't choose this way or that way. There are two types of people. One are those who cling to the world of change, and those who try to escape. But Tantra says it is a change. So, to cling is futile, to escape is also futile. Because if you are clinging, you are erroneous. If you want to escape, you are ignorant. Where else will you go? When you have a conflict at home with your spouse, you go out. You go to the bar. You go to a restaurant, you go to a friend's place, but deep within, the conflict continues like an undercurrent. Have you not observed that? That continuously remains there. What is the use? Buddha says, what is the use of remaining in the world of change? The difference between Buddha and Tantra. Buddha says, what is the use of remaining in the world of change? Tantra says, what is the use of escaping from it? Because when it is all around, where will you go? And both are right in their own way. Both are right in their own way. Both are futile. As a process, they are using it. Allow it to happen. You are not concerned with it. It is happening. You are not even needed for it. The wheel of time is moving. It does not need you, whether you are there or not. The clock is moving. Does the clock need you? It is moving in its own pace. It does not need you, whether you are there or not. The clock will continue to move. Life will continue to move whether you are there or not. Allow it to happen. You are not connected with it. It is happening. You are not even needed for this happening. You were not, and the world was changing, and you will not be there, and the world will go on changing. So why create a fuss about it? Before you, the world was changing. After you, the world is changing. You have a clock on your wall. This is a great learning symbol. When you are there, the clock is moving. You are not there, the clock is moving. You come back home, the clock is still moving. Does clock depend on your presence? The only thing is this mechanism. It is a mechanism you have to put the battery. Once the battery is there, it doesn't care whether you are there or not. Whether you are happy or unhappy, it will go on moving. Whether you are sick or not, clock will continue to move. Life is that clock which keeps on moving without worrying about you. It doesn't care. Consume change through change. Consume change through change. This is very deep message. Very deep message. I'll take an example of anger. Consume anger through anger. Consume sex through sex. Consume greed through greed. Consume sansar, the world, through sansar. Don't fight with it. We are fighting with it. We are fighting with anger. We are trying to suppress it. We are going to the places how to manage anger. Do not fight with it. Be relaxed in it. Whatsoever it is, whether it is anger, whether it is sex, whether it is greed, whether it is sansar, the world of duality, whatsoever is, do not need to fight with it. It is there. Because fight creates tensions, and fight creates anxiety, anguish, and you will be unnecessarily disturbed. Allow the world to be as it is. Flow with it. When it comes to anger, flow with it. But you are afraid to flow with it. You are afraid to flow with sex. You are afraid to flow with greed. You are afraid to flow with the world. There are two types of persons. One type of those persons who cannot allow the world to be so it is. They do not allow the world to be so it is. They are called revolutionaries. They are not satisfied with the world, they want to change it. They are called revolutionaries. They will change it, they will struggle to change it. They will destroy their whole life in changing it. And it is already changing. The world, the phenomena is already changing. They are not needed it. They will only consume themselves. So what happens? Look at the revolutionaries. They will burn out in the changing world, and it something that is constantly undergoing change. No revolution is really needed. The world is a revolution. Revolution means that is constantly moving, constantly changing. It is a changing phenomenon. Why do you? Revolution comes from the word revolve. You may wonder why India has not created great revolutions. It is because of the insight that everything is already undergoing the process of change. Why are you disturbed to change it? Why do you want to change it? You can neither change it nor stop the change. Can you stop the clock? Can you stop the wheel of time? It cannot. It doesn't need you for its movement. It is changing. So why waste energy? One type of personality always tries to change the world. We are all concerned with changing the world. In the eyes of the religion, in religion's eye, he is neurotic. Really, he is afraid of coming to himself, so he goes on becoming obsessed with the world. The state has to be changed, the government has to be changed, the society, the structure, the economies, everything has to be changed, and he will die. And he will never have never have a moment of ecstasy, who is constantly struggling to change it. He will never have a minutest moment of ecstasy in which he could know what he was. And the world would consume him, and the wheel will go on moving. The wheel of time too swiftly moves, goes on mopping as it rolls. No power can its fury ebb or can check its passage. It has been going and shall go forever without a break. What to do then? Then do the most of what ye may, cause frigid claws of death may soon descend and seal your humble fate. Cause frigid claws of death may soon descend and seal your humble fate. Then you shan't have time to mend. This is neither can you stop nor can you associate the change. It is a mystic's attitude. Mystic says there is no need to change the world. But mystics are also of two types. One will say there is no need to change the world, but there is no need to change oneself either. he also believes in changing. Not changing in its changing the world, but change himself. It said that you change your attitude. If there is a constant conflict in your office, change yourself. Tantra says there is no need to change anyone, neither the world nor yourself. That is the deepest core of mysticism. Deepest core of mysticism, you need not change the world because you cannot change it. You need not change yourself. You are just to know that everything is flux and constantly changing, and to float in the change and relax in the change is the way. Only this much for this morning. Until next we meet again, take care and do have a pleasant day.